Today on the show, we ask the question, what is a god to a non-believer, and what is a demon to the banished? Welcome to Lore Party, the podcast that explores the stories, characters, and universes of our favorite video games. I'm Jaden.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Connor.
And today we are answering the question of just who are the Banished?
The Banished, is that kind of like the Covenant Part 2 or something different? I can't remember.
It's the Covenant's angry stepbrother who are tired of being overshadowed.
Right.
All it is a Covenant with a red skin. Like, that's it. We just reskin them. Just like StarCraft models. We just reskinned it. We put a little bit of red tint on it, and there you go.
That's starting to sound like some PS4 bias. That's what I'm hearing there.
Kevin,
PlayStation slander.
Kevin, Sony paid you to say that, right?
Oh my goodness, such the bribery that we're encountering here.
I do not own a PlayStation, so there you go.
The Banished are an interesting topic in Halo, and they're kind of new. They're not super familiar. Like, after so many years of the Covenant being the bad guys, and I guess the Flood too, but the Covenant were like the iconic bad guys of Halo. The Banished show up, and it's still brutes, elites, jackals, grunts, aliens we've seen before, but they're kind of organized in a new way. So with Halo Infinite coming out soon, I feel like it's a good question. Like, who are the Banished exactly? I'm glad you're bringing it up, Jaden. I'm glad we're here to talk about it.
Absolutely. And before we go into this fully, we just want to preface this by saying the information we're going to go over today is stuff that is known now. We know that there is a teaser released online for some of the early missions of Halo Infinite. We are purposely not talking about those because we want to get the full context of the game. So we're going to wait, and we're probably going to do a follow-up episode later on just to cover anything we missed or issue any corrections to what we talk about
after
today.
We've had a chance to experience the campaign. We'll come back and see what else we know about the Banished. But for now,
exactly, yes.
For now.
Now, the thing about this also is the Banished are new, but they're also old. So the concept of the Banished, most of who they are, we do meet a lot of these characters in the Halo Wars series, whereas the Banished and specific characters that we meet in Halo Infinite, for instance,
exactly,
they're new to Master Chief's specific story.
But that doesn't mean that they are indifferent to the universe itself. So get ready. This is another one of Jaden's patented lore-heavy episodes from books.
Correct.
Everyone's favorite.
Get out your reading glasses. Here we go.
And keep in mind, a lot of these games reference all these books. There's a lot of references in them, so you can also look them up yourselves if you want, but keep in mind, they do try to do a decent job of explaining some stuff in all these games, like bits and pieces you can piece together.
But first, a really quick, housekeeping session here, just to get some stuff out of the way first. As Lore Party hosts, we cannot stress enough that we love to hear from our listeners. So please email us at lorepartypodcast@gmail.com with your thoughts and maybe even episode ideas. You got something you want us to talk about? Got some thoughts on Halo, Banished, Infinite, whatever. Let us know. Email us.
We are definitely looking for more content to do Halo-wise. We are so excited to be back in this world. Halo's
Absolutely.
back.
It's exciting. Also, our teammates, our producers here on Lore Party stream on a regular basis on Twitch. So be sure to follow us on twitch.tv/lore_party. I tend to stream Doom and stuff like that. My Doom and Nightmare playthroughs and stuff like that. But find us there. And of course, you can always connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at lore_party. With that out of the way, let's get into the episode. So why are we talking about this?
We're talking about this because a lot of people don't even know what the Banished are. They're a new faction that was released in a side game, and they have now been thrust into the spotlight given the natural progression of the story in Halo going on right now, which is kind of cool. This is a time skip we're doing going into the new game as well. So there's going to be a lot of what's going on with picking up the pieces as we go through the game, which is something that Halo really hasn't done before. It's usually been, beat to beat to beat with the
Right.
storyline. So let's quickly go over just the origins of the Banished. In order to do that, we have to talk about their forerunners, for lack of a better term, the Covenant.
Heyo. So yeah, the banished had to come from somewhere. I mean, their name implies that they were banished from something else, or someplace else, and they were originally Covenant forces. They were sort of part of the, massive religious hegemony. The Covenant was a group of multiple alien species that had come together and formed like a conglomerate, a coalition, if you will, of multiple dozens upon dozens of star systems. They basically controlled most of the Milky Way galaxy for a very long time. And, the Covenant were led by their religious leaders, the prophets, also known as the so I'm going to butcher this, also known as the San Shium, but, colloquially, the prophets is what they were called. And the prophets preached a concept called the Great Journey. See, the prophets believed, and by extension, the rest of the Covenant believed, that the Forerunners, the advanced race that came before the Covenant, had left behind the halo arrays and wanted the Covenant to activate them and follow them on a great journey. So the Covenant just wanted to be reunited with the Forerunners, basically, and as a result, they recovered their technology, hoarded Forerunner artifacts, and worshipped them as remnants of their gods, basically. Now, this unfortunately put them into conflict with humanity, and when they decided that humans were heretics, abominations, an affront to their Forerunner gods, what followed wasn't really a war so much as a holy genocide, and like a crusade is how they saw it. But not every segment of the Covenant was happy with this conflict, and that eventually led to the Banished coming about. How did this lead to the Banished, though? Like, how'd that happen?
So, as we said, the Covenant is made up of several alien species, one of which is the Yarlhanai, but we're going to call them the Brutes because that's way easier to say. The Brutes were, savage creatures that grew up on their world, and all they knew was combat. They ended up forming a very tribalistic clan system, and because of that, everything about them was about power and strength. You can see that in their weapons. I mean, their weapons are not made for precision, and they're not made for elite surgical strikes like some of the Sangheli or the elites weapons are known for. Their weapons basically boil down to, we need to put knives on everything.
Their main firearm, the Spiker, just has those giant blades sticking out of it. And look at their vehicles, too. I mean, no elegant hovercrafts to be seen here. It's giant motorcycles with guns on them.
With flames spouting out. I'm like, Mad Max would be proud to ride one of these motorcycles.
They're all about, like, the war chieftain kind of stuff. Honestly, they kind of remind me of, like, orcs from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, a little bit.
Their society is structured pretty similar. The clan system. Each one's fighting for dominance over the resources. For their each world and stuff, and also just dominance in general. And they eventually kind of stop fighting with each other long enough to make it into space, because obviously they probably wouldn't get into space if they just kept, Krogan smashing each other over and over again. But then the Brutes,
you get into space so you can kill people easier from orbit. That's why you get into space.
Exactly. There you go. But the thing is, like, as soon as they get to space, they instantly meet the Covenant, and they're immediately attacked. Like, the Covenant's just like, whoa, who's this guy? Boom, knives to the face. They're like, oh my God. Like, the Brutes just were like, hello, what's up? And then they get immediately attacked. Like, everybody just starts getting attacked by each other.
Yeah.
You want to talk about first contact war? Holy shit. And then, the Brutes, though, their weapons were like, it's just knives. Like, they're no match for, like, the Covenant. And then it's like, okay, Covenant destroys them, and then they're instantly subjugated. Like, they're like, here you go, you're ours now. We see your potential of just brute force, but now you're ours.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the elites considered them to be an unrefined and crude species compared to themselves, But at the same time, the prophets said, they wanted to just get rid of them completely. But the prophets said, now, wait a minute. We can use this. They attack with no regard for their own safety or the safety of others.
that's a quality you want in expendable shock troops, which is exactly what the prophets turned the brutes into. And that early difference, that early discord between the elites and the brutes, that goes all the way back to when the brutes first met the Covenant, that would kind of never really go away, as we'll talk about maybe a little later with the Great Schism.
No.
But I do think that the dichotomy between Sanghili and Jiralhanae is, it's no clearer than, you don't have to look any further than their weapons, like you've mentioned, is just the elites. What do they use? The energy sword is what they're really known for, that plasma blade that they just shink. It's so badass, and they cut you down with it. It's precise. It's elegant. It takes finesse and technique to use properly. But what are the brutes known for? Cool. Gravity hammers, bitch. taller than they are. They swing it as hard as they can, and when it makes impact, it just sets off this shockwave and just reduces everything to rubble. It's like, damn, that's a very brute weapon right there. But no, yeah, the prophets, being as pragmatic and forward thinking as they are, they think, we can make use of this raw, naked, animalistic aggression. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, brutes were sent on some of the deadliest, most borderline suicidal assignments that the Covenant ever came up with. And that would lead us to an individual known as Atriox. What's Atriox's deal? He's an important guy, right?
So Atriox was a brute clan leader who was sent on the most dangerous assignments in general, like we said. And so he would take around 40 or so of his brothers, just straight into death. Didn't give a shit. Like, he was like, all right, guys, we're going. Suicide mission. You show up at the end, you cool. If you're going to come through that door with me at the end of the night, great. If not, oh, dang, sucks for you. And every single time, he's the only one walking through the door. So the mental toll of sending so many dudes to death, like so many of his comrades to death, and then being helpless to save them, it kind of drove him to question the whole will of the prophets. Because even though so the thing is, he was a soldier. So like in his mindset, that still was like, I know we're going to war. I know some of you are going to die. If you're alive at the end of it, good. If you're not, we're at war. Like that's the soldier mindset he had. But because he was the only one showing up at the end, every single time he was like, something's up with these prophets. What the hell is going on here? And obviously, it's quietly. He's just kind of questioning them, like, what the hell? What the fuck am I doing? Then, as more and more, bodies just continuously pile up, he kind of just is like, I'm going to be open about this. And he just starts questioning the prophets just straight openly. And then with each return that he gets from every mission and everything, his the name of him being like a legend gets bigger and bigger. And then like tales start being spread around the Covenant about this guy. And then he's also, to my knowledge, he's an atheist, I believe. And so they were kind of like, who's this atheist?
Who's this militant atheist?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. Like, who's this atheist who doesn't believe in the prophets?
I think a better term would be heretic, because, that's even what the prophets would call him, because, just to be technical, an atheist, it just lacks a belief in a higher power. But I think in Atriox's case, it's more like in the values of the Covenant, an atheist is a heretic, because he has shirked the responsibilities of the great journey and the will of the prophets. Right. By questioning the hierarchs, by no longer trusting the prophets that they know best. He is, I guess from their standards, he would count as an atheist, but I think worse than that, heretic. Because when you are a heretic to the Covenant, you're marked for death. Like they don't, that's not just a polite disagreement. That's not like you have a different faith than me. That's literally, you have to go. You're a criminal. You have to die. Like they send an arbiter after you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and that's why the Covenant knew they had to get rid of him. So what they decided to do was send him on one last mission. They were like, there is no possible way that he could survive this. Surprise, he did. Because because he's Atriox, which I want to ask the question here. Like, could you imagine getting in the mindset of one of those brutes and being like, hey, good news, you're on a mission. Great, who's it with? Atriox? Ah, shit. I'm already dead.
I think we've brought up a really important point, Kevin, earlier, talking about just questioning the reasons. After a certain point, a soldier will accept losses. A soldier will know that, yeah, sometimes my friends will die. Sometimes the men I lead into battle will die. That's just that's the nature of the beast. But I think at a certain point, the warrior with a conscience, or at least some shred of intelligence, will eventually wonder, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? And when you're no longer satisfied with the answers the prophets are giving you, that's when you know the time has come to split off and do something else. And that's what he did. He came back from this suicide mission he was not supposed to come back from. And Atriox, the story goes, he strolled into his executioner's base, where the guys were waiting to kill him, and he killed them first.
They literally were like, we're going to send you on this mission that no one will ever survive. But in case you do, here's this dude's going to kill you the second you get back. And he said, cool, well, how about I kill him first?
Exactly. And so this was his impetus. Like, this was, his wake-up call. Atriox decided, no more Covenant. I'm done with it. I'm going my own way. And he took what remained of his clan and basically led a rebellion. They branched off and they fled from Covenant space, vowing revenge on the prophets who had not only wasted their lives in pointless conflict to pursue this great journey nonsense that Atriox was starting to question, but also tried to kill him. So it was not just, it was personal. It was also, it had to do with his clan surviving. It's like, I'm not going to let you continue bleeding my brothers and I until there's nothing left of us with nothing to show for it. So when Atriox took his followers and fled from Covenant space, the prophets declared, you will always be known as the Banished now. And so the Banished were sort of marked for death, basically. Like, they're heretics and they will be killed on sight. So,
which Atriox was used to at this point.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around. We'll be right back.
Well, so early on in the episode, someone had mentioned that the Banished are nothing more than Covenant reskinned, right?
Not me.
Well, I want to get to that point. I don't know, that crazy person. I want to get to that point because there are a lot of differences between the two factions, and we really need to talk about the flaws that we see in the Covenant's way of doing things that have kind of been surpassed by this new unleashed version of them. The Banished is the Covenant free from religion. The Covenant, their first and only goal is the Great Journey. They want to make sure that the prophet's will is done, that the rings are activated, and they get to move on to the next great phase of their holy journey, which we all know now is death, but they didn't know that at the time.
They thought, we're going to walk through the hole in space, the gate to heaven, and meet our gods, and they're going to shower riches on us and wealth and glory. No, it would have deleted you, so you didn't.
Yes.
So you couldn't become flood food, basically.
It would have removed you from the timeline. But unfortunately, like, this mindset really does tie their hands. The best example of this, and it's actually the most pivotal example, it's why the humanity and the Covenant come to blows. When humanity is discovered on planet Harvest, they're discovered in the year 2525. The prophets, they order their forces to attack, wipe out these weird creatures that are living on this holy site. Harvest was a holy world for the Covenant. There was massive Forerunner relics buried underneath the surface. And so, when you see an infestation like that, you get rid of it, you burn it away. Unfortunately, then the prophets found out that actually humans were the chosen successors of the Forerunners.
It's so funny because it's hilarious. What happened is their scanners told them, like the Covenant scanners were like lighting, like the boards were lighting up with, there's so many artifacts on that planet. But then they took a closer look and realized, wait, the artifacts are the people. So they had to suddenly face this realization that humans are Forerunner artifacts.
Yes. and that they had just committed heresy against themselves.
Right. And so what wasn't widely known across the Covenant, and only a few of the prophets realized, was that human beings as a species are what are known as reclaimers. That's why the Forerunner oracles like Guilty Spark refer to Master Chief and other humans as reclaimers, because as a species, humanity was designated the successors of the Forerunner Empire. They were given what's called the mantle of responsibility. But when the prophets, or at least a few of them, who would later become the hierarchs, prophets of truth and regret and mercy, when they realized this, they thought, we can't let this get out. We can't let, the elites, the grunts, the baying masses, we can't let the rest of the Covenant realize that these pink, hairless little ape people, like these humans, are foreign artifacts, and they are chosen ascendants by our gods. So that information was basically purged from any records. It was hidden. And that's when the Human Covenant War was declared, that religious genocide, basically, that Holy Crusade began, because we have to get rid of them.
They not only did they declare war, they doubled down. They were like, we need to kill every human we can find.
Yes. Yeah, not just the ones here on this planet, but all of them anywhere ever.
Yeah.
Like they all got to go.
Well, I mean, like, their power, that's the thing. Like, their power is gone once the rest of the Covenant realize, like, humans are essentially, the chosen one, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're done. Their power is gone.
The Covenant falls apart if that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, you just declared a war on the saints that you worship.
Right. So that can never get out. And this has had the horrible, tragic side effect of leading to this galaxy-spanning war with billions dead on both sides. It was cataclysmic. The Human Covenant War is full of tragedy and just unimaginable atrocity, really.
You got to understand the usual path for a Covenant invasion force is that they will destroy the space defenses, and then they will just glass the planet from orbit.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there are Forerunner artifacts on the planet.
Exactly.
Which, because humans are the reclaimers, they naturally migrated to, the worlds that they thought would be habitable from Earth. And those just happen to be Forerunner worlds.
Right.
So you'd show up to a planet. If you were the Covenant, you would pray that there were not any Forerunner artifacts on that world. Because if there was even just like a leftover toilet, you couldn't burn it down because that was a holy toilet. So you had to send billions of soldiers to make sure that you secured that toilet.
So, yeah, as terrifying and, vicious as the Covenant war machine is, and, don't get us wrong, humans suffered terribly in this war. They still, as brutally efficient as the Covenant can be when they want to destroy a planet, they are, like you said, Jaden, they are hamstrung by these weird religious rules. Like, oh, you better not bombard this surface of this planet with plasma projectors. If, they're artifacts, you got to go down and get them. So it's like, if they didn't have these rules and these religious trappings surrounding the Great Journey and the Forerunners, if there wasn't so much pomp and circumstance about all this, the Covenant Human War might have been over even faster than it already was. Like, it might have gone even worse if they weren't held back by these restrictions.
Well, and think about this, Sword Base on Reach during Halo Reach was built above a Forerunner installation.
Yeah.
And that was where Cortana was created.
Right.
So if the Covenant didn't have to obey the rules of war that they have placed upon themselves, they could have just blown the thing up from orbit. There was a bunch of UNSC forces there. And by the way, the UNSC, I think they kind of, like Dr. Halsey kind of got an inkling that that's what they should do is, form up around these Forerunner installations. But for the majority of the war, they had no idea.
Right.
They would be like, weird, they're not attacking us here.
Yeah.
Why not?
And by going through the trouble of invading Sword Base on the ground instead of just, melting it from orbit, a noble team, a team of Spartan 3s, well, many Spartan 3s and one Spartan 2, were able to repel the invasion, and this bought time for Cortana to be delivered to Master Chief, who went on to basically destroy the Covenant. So, these things have ripple effects, and when the Covenant give themselves these strange rules, it made the war harder on them for no reason. But so I guess just as to wrap up this part of the conversation is just, there was a double-edged sword to this. The covenant was held together by these shared beliefs. Well, shared in the sense that the prophets said it and we all believe it. So it's shared in that we all believe the prophets and we all follow them.
Much like the Joe Rogan podcast, whatever Joe says, his followers obey without question.
Hey,
you're going to get us sued, buddy.
Like and subscribe.
I don't care. I don't care.
But
it means they'd have to listen to the podcast
true,
to hear it.
You're right. But so...
you've fallen into my trap, Joe Rogan followers.
So these shared beliefs that the covenant were held together by, on one hand, gave the organization strength. Like, look at the elites, these professional alien warriors, with pride and dignity, and they fight with honor. They were roused to acts of brilliance, like strategic brilliance during the war with the humans, where they would win battles and go into combat, with their hearts full of zeal. And that's because they believed in the great journey. They were given this motivation in this holy crusade, thanks to the lies that the prophets were spreading. So it gave them strength in some ways. But on the other hand, the other side of the sword is, like we've discussed with, sword base and other examples of avoiding damage to Forerunner relics. It's a weakness. It demonstrably hampered their efforts in the war with mankind. And here's the big kicker. When we're talking about the Banished, when we get back to the Banished, that is a weakness that the Banished do not have. And that's what makes them very, very dangerous.
Absolutely. Thanks to the abandonment of the religious dogma that most of them have suffered through their entire lives, they operate in a frighteningly effective way. Now, they are not held to the standard that all Forerunner artifacts are sacred. They do not care if it's just a Forerunner base. Unless that base has some actual use to them, they do not care.
What's another interesting thing about the Banished that we've noticed in Halo Wars 2 and just their other appearances, looking at the Covenant had these rules about modifying technology. Like their technology, like plasma weapons, their spaceships, they're based on Forerunner technology. They're based on old designs that the prophets came across in their journey. And there was a taboo against modifying anything. Like they were more copiers than innovators when the Covenant were, developing their technology. The Banished, again, they weren't held back by that. So the Banished, they'll tinker, they'll screw around with all kinds of stuff. Atriox himself, it looked like he had adapted even human technology, exosuit stuff from the UNSC left behind on the Ark, and he combined it with power armor the Brutes had built. And it's just, they don't care. It's very pragmatic. They'll do what it takes to survive.
Using human equipment was actually a heretical act for the Covenant.
That's
so even if
very heretical.
So just imagine, you're a grunt who escapes from a UNSC prison center, and you get your hands on a Magnum pistol. You escape, and then the elites kill you because you used human technology.
How dare you use it?
But I had used it to escape. Fuck you.
Well, that's the thing I think about Atriox specifically. And just the brute society itself, because the Banished grew themselves from a single brute clan into a force that was so massive it literally rivaled the Covenant. And so, we said about Halo Wars 2, we have the AI Isabel. She's the Covenant had two targets in those years, humanity and then Atriox. They almost got us, but then Atriox, they never came close. It was. I see it as dealing, the fact that he was with, he's been with the Covenant for years, and I think the fact that he, even though he, I guess, kind of said screw off to their religion, he kind of said no, because he was part of the Covenant for so long, he knew how to take advantage of those in the Covenant, whether it be, follow him as the new prophet. He doesn't necessarily have to say that he's the new prophet, but he can act upon as okay, there's these legends about me. There's these ways that I can manipulate these, followers and have them believe that I am more important and what I say is more important than what they say kind of thing. Like, it's not necessarily about religion anymore. Now it's about, or belief system that the Covenant has created. Now it's about Atriox and how can I win and how can I be, the new person in charge. And so he and his crew, they did seek to recover, Forerunner relics, like we said. But I would say that their approach was, again, like you guys said, it's more practical than anything. And I think that's more of a brute mindset where it's like, these are weapons. How can I adapt these weapons so I can win? Because all I give a shit about is winning. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how you leave the Covenant behind, join the Banished. And that happened a lot. Like, it wasn't just, like you said, Kevin, it grew. It was originally just Atriox and his clan, but it grew quickly. And, you had probably clans of Sanghili, elites, and, entire swarms of grunts and jackals who, thought, I like Atriox. I like the cut of his jib. I'm sick of the Covenant and its rules.
Please don't kill me. I'd like to join you now.
Also, please don't kill me. Yes. But like, he attracted, a wide variety of talent to his forces. And so it's like, you're leaving behind the cult-like atmosphere of the Covenant and kind of joining Atriox's cult of personality almost. Like, he had a magnetic charisma about him.
Crazily enough, he even allowed humans to join his ranks.
That's another great example. So, like, again, we talk about heresy and the Covenant. Like, that would never have flown, obviously. Like, humans were abominations. They all had to die. But with Atriox, like, hey, if you're here to fight, if you pull your weight, if you do what I say, sure, you're good. You can stay. So it's mind-boggling. Like, he really is a rejection of so many of the conventions that the Covenant were defined by. And so, like, it's almost like the Banished are a dark mirror to the Covenant in some ways. Like, doing away with, we don't care what is or isn't heretical anymore. We don't care about the Great Journey. That's all a lie. The prophets are full of shit. We're just gonna survive and win and be strong. And that's all we care about.
Yeah.
I just still think it's crazy that he allows humans. Like, to me, that's just like, whoa. That's just like,
I mean, yeah,
whoa.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Atriox. We've talked about a lot of stuff except the big main dude of Halo, Master Chief. So, like, where's 117 at?
Where does Johnny fit?
So,
in
like,
this?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Let's cover up how this all fits together. This puzzle has been assembled. Let's put the pieces in place.
Right. Talking about Halo Infinite, what part do the Banished play in it? That's a good question. So when we last left Master Chief, this is back in Halo 5 Guardians. That was a huge boondoggle of AI gone bad, basically. Cortana was sort of the antagonist of that arc. And what happened is, she had kind of come back as a Forerunner construct almost in some ways and led basically an AI revolution. Artificial intelligences went rogue and joined her and crippled the UNSC's military capabilities. It was a bad time. Yeah. Luckily, the big man in green himself, Master Chief, John 117, the legend himself, he and his buddies on Blue Team and the rest of the UNSC Infinity crew
Locke were able to, I guess.
Locke is okay, fine. Yeah, Locke and Osiris can tag along. Oh, Captain Lasky's cool. He's definitely on. Like, yeah, Lasky's cool.
Yeah,
I'm good with him. But anyway, the whole team kind of came together and were able to prevent Cortana from just ruining everything and sending the galaxy into an evil AI controlled nightmare of darkness. But there was I'm not entirely familiar with how Guardians ended. I didn't play it, but
yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There was another AI created to sort of counter Cortana, right?
So this is where we're going to get a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
This is stuff that we've kind of picked up from conversations in secondary lore. In order to combat Cortana and her AI forces, a second AI was created off of the matrices of Cortana, known simply as the Weapon. Its goal was to attract Cortana to Installation 07, and then where she would capture Cortana's essence, and they would bring it back to the Infinity for deletion.
Right.
We don't really know whether or not the plan worked based on the current marketing ploys, but it seems like it didn't. So that's another part of the story that we are going to see possibly a conclusion of in the upcoming game.
Right.
But while this was going on, the UNSC and elites, they were putting all their efforts into what limited resources they had to fight Cortana. It appears that the Banished were not actually affected by the AI threat, probably due to the lack of AI on their own.
Right.
We've talked a lot about how the brutes are brutal in their efficiency, and a clunky AI system controlling all of their stuff doesn't really seem pragmatic for them or useful for them, because it'd be very weird where it's like an AI going, I would suggest doing anything but a full frontal assault. It's like, you are talking crazy, computer, shut down.
Yeah. The Banished are a very analog bunch. They don't really like being second. They don't want to get second guessed.
They love their corded phones, their tape decks. Them and Captain Adama would go along really well together.
They don't want to be second guessed by their computers. That's not their style. But yeah, so this is way after the Covenant Human War has ended, obviously. So the Covenant's not really a thing anymore. But you have the elites themselves as a species. For the most part, they're allies with humans, or at least not enemies. And so while the major powers left in the galaxy, the UNSC, the elites, the scattered alien races that used to be part of the Covenant, we're all dealing with the AI threat. Yeah, it does look to be that the Banished are now kind of filling that power vacuum. Like, the UNSC has their hands full with Cortana. The elites kind of have civil wars going on all the time. So the Banished kind of come in and think, I think this is our time to shine. This is here we go.
The only big players in the galaxy that are left are the UNSC. Right. The only ones that are organized, at least. The back of the Covenant is completely broken. Right. So when they see that the last major, opposition in the UNSC left, the UNSC Infinity is heading towards Installation 07, they think now is the time to strike.
Yeah, and strike they do. What we do know,
we don't know if the Infinity is lost, but it's heavily implied that it has been destroyed, possibly with all hands. So we might have lost all of our friends that we made along the way from 4 and 5.
Yeah. So what we do know about Halo Infinite is that it does begin with kind of in the aftermath of a massive battle between the UNSC and we can assume the Banished. And so I guess we'll find out soon just how badly that battle goes and what hope there is remaining afterwards for the UNSC to recover. And we'll see what the Banished are really up to on this new Halo construct, Installation 07. Like, what are they up to? What are they after? I can't wait to find out.
I'm so excited.
I'm so pumped.
I'm so excited.
If you think about how the Banished handle the Flood, the Banished handle, their civil war with the Covenant, and then they handle the UNSC while they're, busy with, they have their hands full with Cortana. I really feel like the Banished are, I think, our journey tonight, if you would pardon the pun, our great journey on this episode was just, are the Banished more dangerous than the Covenant? Are they a deadlier threat to our main boy, Master Chief? And if so, in what way? And I think the answer to the first question is absolutely they are. The Banished are way more dangerous because they're just so much more cunning, so much more underhanded, and just bloodthirsty. They just want it more. And look at their track record. They survived. Surviving the Flood is just, that's big ups.
They're fighting for freedom. That's really what it is. In their mind, they are fighting for the religious freedom, or maybe the freedom from the religion that has kept them down so long. And I guess the final little question would be, if Cortana hadn't disabled the UNSC fleet before the Banished showed up, do you think humanity would have stood a better chance than the Covenant?
I think yes. Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like, obviously they would stand a better chance. Whether or not they would win against the Banished eventually is, kind of a different question. But I mean, if you think about the UNSC after the Human Covenant War, like the shape it was in, it was a big rebuilding phase. They had the Spartan 4 program is completely up and running by then. You had ships like the Infinity kind of being in development. And I mean, obviously the Infinity is kind of a one-of-a-kind flagship. The UNSC doesn't have a lot of ships like it, but they are getting better at building a fleet that can be dominant in the galaxy. After defeating the Covenant, the UNSC is in a position to dominate the galaxy in a way. And they were getting there. And, when the Cortana AI crisis happens, obviously that's a huge setback. But if that hadn't happened and then the Banished showed up, I think you'd have a toe-to-toe even fight. You'd have a slugging match between the post-Covenant War UNSC versus the Banished. Would be just a knockdown, drag-out war that I would like to see. That'd be fun to watch, but it would be bloody. They would have a better chance, but I don't know where that goes. That's an open-ended question that I don't know if they would be able to handle the Banished. They would have a better shot, obviously, but that'd be cataclysmic warfare right there.
It also depends on when. Are we talking the Banished showing up when they're showing up now? Because then I think the humanity would, if humanity didn't have to deal with the shit that went down in the years of Halo 4 and 5, I think humanity would have a better shot. But if it was the Cortana stuff didn't happen and the Banished show up right away, when Halo 4 starts, I think humanity would be toe-to-toe. But now, years later, I think they would have had enough time to build infinities. You know what I mean? They would have enough time to build a decent amount of those that it would be a little bit easier for humanity. But I'm seeing so much of a stalemate. I think humanity's still too tired, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they had definitely not entirely recovered from the war with the Covenant yet by the time the Banished came on the radar. They were getting there. I would give them, they were definitely rebuilding their power, but I don't think they were completely ready to fight the Banished yet. But I look forward to getting some more insight into the Banished when we get our hands on Halo Infinite and see where it goes.
I think that wraps it up for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. I'm pretty sure you guys did too. And if you at home did, please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us grow the show. And be sure to connect with us once again on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter at lore_party. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Get ready to finish the fight.